Good afternoon, Manitoba. I'm Larry McIntosh, and I'll be your host for the next hour. Thanks very much for tuning in. I want to welcome you to the special Thanksgiving edition of Food and Friends. Normally, our show airs on Saturday mornings from 8 to 9, but we had the honor of being asked to do a special show for this holiday Monday. I hope you're having a great day so far, and that you'll be enjoying some great Manitoba vegetables with your turkey dinner tonight. Did you know that each Food and Friends radio show was filmed and is then posted on MyToba.ca the day after it airs on 680 CJOB? If you want to see the TV version of this show or previous radio shows, please visit MyToba.ca. Thanks to 680 CJOB's Nicole Bonnekamp, who produces our show, and Chad, who operates the camera, as well as the teachers of the Broadcasting and Media Arts program at Techvoc High School. You can also listen to an audio podcast of Food and Friends at SoundCloud.com and at the iTunes stores. Again, please do a search for Food and Friends with Larry at MyToba.ca, at SoundCloud.com, at the iTunes store, and you can listen to all the shows or you can view them as well. It's very important for me to mention that Food and Friends is only available because of 680 CJOB and its advertisers. So please tune in to 680 CJOB or listen live at cjob.com. My guest this afternoon is Sharon Blady, Minister of Healthy Living and Seniors. Good afternoon, Minister.
Hi, Larry.
How are you doing?
I'm good. You can just call me Sharon.
Well, it's supposed to be the Honourable Minister, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. No,
There's
I'm
some
just
protocol?
Well, I think officially there is. I'm more familiar, honestly, with Hey Mom. So
Wouldn't that seem odd if I called you Hey Mom, though?
Yeah,
Really?
that would sound odd coming from you.
We'll go back to Sharon?
Yeah. So Sharon's good. Yeah.
So you're the Minister of Healthy Living and Seniors. I want to wish you a happy anniversary because I think it's in about 5 days is your 1 year anniversary in that post.
Yeah, it's coming up. It's kind of bizarre to think that it's been a whole year, but it's been a wonderful opportunity, and it's wonderful to be able to take a more active role. I mean, as a backbencher, it was great to do a lot of different things, but suddenly having a little bit more hands-on approach and working with some phenomenal partners. I think that's the other part that I really love about this portfolio is it's so much about partnerships and partnering with other folks in Manitoba who are interested in healthy living, which is why I'm really thrilled to be here because I know you're one of those partners and you're very active and I think one of the most well-known Manitobans in terms of getting people to eat their veggies and be healthy.
And I'm on a board of the Canadian Produce Marketing Association, which is a national board, international members, but primarily Canadian. And I was at a board meeting 3 weeks ago, and we were talking about a program called Half Your Plate, encouraging people to have half your plate of fruits and vegetables,
Yes.
which fits in the food guide, but is obviously the produce industry. You want to have half your plate. So we're doing a launch in the new year. So I said, well, I'll speak to the Minister of Healthy Living when I see her, and we're not going to talk about it today. But after the meeting, people came up and said, do you have a Minister of Healthy Living in your province? How did you get that? That's very proactive, because I don't know what the other provinces have, but many just have a Minister of Health, and you're worried about health, which we all worry about, but this is more a proactive ministry.
I think it is, and I think that's one of the other things is that actually I was just at a health ministers meeting last week in Banff, and again, most places have a Minister of Health, a Minister of Health and Wellness, and you end up having to deal with both things. And I think that's the one thing that I like is that it allows these things, these preventative and proactive things to be sort of taken out, given some additional focus. And again, we all know that it's so much easier to do the preventative work than to try to, deal with the consequences of a 21st century lifestyle. So that's what I like about it is it gives me the opportunity, whether it's to work with kids on the students working against tobacco, whether it's working with folks like you and the Nutrition Council of Manitoba, all those kinds of things that we can do to be healthy first. And how I look at it is I tease my colleague Erin Selby that the more we spend on my half of the department, the less we need to spend on hers.
And wouldn't that be great?
Yeah, exactly. That the more we can get folks to again think about healthy, active eating. How much of our diet, for example, and our activity level contributes to things like the possibility of diabetes, cancer, other kind of chronic diseases. So what kinds of things, what kind of habits? Again, as a mom, so many people, you've probably heard me say this too, I run everything through the mom filter. So what is it that I can do for my kids and every other kid in the province to make sure that they have the healthiest start and adapt and adopt the healthiest lifestyle choices early on in life, because that gives them a longer, healthier life in general. So that's my goal.
And to me, it just makes sense. But what you said, but you have the hospitals to worry about and all those type of things, and preventative. And to have that in the same portfolio would be tough to do, because you're going to be worried about the pressing issues of the day, no different than any of us in any job, right? Versus trying to be proactive and try and reduce some of the health issues. So that makes a lot of sense to me. Is there many provinces that have?
Not really. Ontario they have an associate minister, and she really focuses on long-term care. And again, some healthy living type things, but it's a slightly different focus. It's about the closest thing, but in most cases, there's a single minister responsible for all of it, even if it, and again, doesn't get to be on the agenda quite the same way. So, like I said, I think it's also a lot of fun.
Yeah.
You get to, there's so many different kinds of things where it's everything from active living and, how often, okay, today might not be a good example. I have to be all dressed up and fancy, but I get to go to work-related events as the minister, and I get to be in track pants and running shoes and go for a walk, or I've done yoga and Zumba with people. It's pretty neat to be able to do that and say that's part of my job description.
Right. And over the next hour, we're going to talk about a lot of the programs, but we're going to have to take a break right now. But we'll be right back with Sharon Blady, Minister of Healthy Living and Seniors, right after we take this break for your CJOB weather update. Welcome back to the Thanksgiving Day edition of Food and Friends. Food and Friends normally airs every Saturday morning from 8 to 9, and we hope you join us when that show airs next Saturday. I just want to remind you that the municipal election is coming up on Thursday, October 22nd. If you're busy that day, you can vote early at many locations. Shelley and I voted last Saturday at one of the malls, so we got it out of the way because we're not sure if we're going to be around on the 22nd. We wanted to make sure we got our votes in, so we're done. But as a citizen of Manitoba and Canada, it's a privilege to have the option of voting, so please exercise that privilege either before the 22nd or on the 22nd. We're back with Sharon Blady, Minister of Healthy Living and Seniors. Now, you've been involved in some elections. You know about getting people out to vote. One of my pet peeves is that we don't get 100% voters.
Yes.
And I know there's a reason for that. And I think in the last couple of provincial elections, we were 54 or 56% people got out. And how can we encourage people to get out and vote more, do you think? I think we take it for granted.
Well, I think that's part of it. I think you're right that it is a privilege, and that I think folks do take it for granted, especially when, in other places in the world, people are literally dying for the privilege of voting. And I think sometimes it's very easy for all the different things that we think are struggles or are issues and things that, again, as somebody as an elected official we deal with, that relative to a lot of other places, we actually have it pretty easy. Not to say that we don't face challenges, but in some respects, the worst day you can have in Winnipeg is still the best day you could ever have in another place in another part of the world that doesn't have the democratic process and the other kinds of things that we have here. So I think in terms of getting folks out, the first thing is educating kids. I've been so happy. I've got some really cool schools in my neighborhood that have done a lot of things. I remember my first election, what they had done was they contacted all of the candidates. They put together a batch of questions. It was the grade 7s. They didn't have us come in and do it as a debate. They invited each of us in for an hour to answer their questions. So there was no responding to what somebody else might say. It was all about you and your perspective and answering the kids. And they had brilliant questions. And so I thought it was wonderful that this social studies teacher got them engaged and then has kept them engaged. And I think that's the other thing too, as a mom, I like to make sure that my kids, they see signs, they ask questions. Talk to them about it, and they'll say, well, why this person rather than that person, or why is this person talking about this, and what does that mean, and what are other people's thoughts on it? So I think it's about being engaged and again, recognizing, I know I have folks that say, oh, I don't get involved in politics because it doesn't concern me. And I almost want to say, you know what, tell me 5 things in your life that you think are not related to political engagement, and I'll pretty much be able to demonstrate to you how they are. So,
and I can't speak for all of Manitoba, but I know in Winnipeg you can do pre-voting, right? And you can go to any part of the city and vote. Doesn't have to be where you live. You can go to where you work. So they're making it easier from that point of view. And I just think it's important for people to vote. And I listen to CJOB, or I watch the news at night, and you see what people are going in the other country. They're fighting to get the right to vote, or they're having their fingerprints taken in order to vote, and the women aren't allowed to vote in some areas. And it goes on and on. And we take these things for granted, but developing our country and our province into what we want it to be, it takes political leaders like yourself to let their names stand and up for election.
Yeah, no, it's definitely an interesting thing to do. It's not what I thought I would do when I grew up, that's for sure. But it is one of those things where you do have to work at engagement, and I think it's a collective responsibility. And you do have to live up to certain things if you are challenged, and you are given the opportunity. That's the other thing. I consider this a privilege and an opportunity, and that my overarching job description, I feel, is how can I be useful? So how can I be useful to my neighborhood? Now as the Minister of Healthy Living, how can I be useful to all Manitobans? And I think that's the other thing, is that we've got a certain degree of cynicism around, elected officials. And in some respects, rightfully so. I just wish that more of us were given fair consideration. That's the other thing too, is that I think it's great that candidates get out and knock doors. And again, that they'll do that to varying degrees. And I know that when I was on the doorstep, all I ever asked folks for was fair consideration. And I think that because all I want is personal engagement. And I remember folks saying, well, I don't think I would ever vote for you because of this or because of that. Maybe it was my party, my leader, something, whatever it was. And I said, you know what? All I ask is that you take the time to find out who I am and find out who all the other candidates are, so that you go out, you vote, and you make a decision, and you take, again, we don't all have to agree. I think it would be really boring. I would be a little concerned if anybody ever came up with a 90% approval rating. I would actually get a little suspicious. So, I like the fact that we have a democracy. And again, I was also raised in a household that said, if you don't get your behind to the poll and vote, please keep your mouth shut until the next election because you didn't participate. I don't know if you want to go that extreme, but I do think we actually all get a say.
And I think there's countries or states maybe that have talked about you have to vote, and if you're not, you're going to be penalized. And I don't think we want to get to that point. I really don't. I think we want people to get out and vote because they want to vote, because they want to research a little bit. They want to see what candidate represents their thoughts, and whether it's municipal level or provincial or federal, and whether it's your party or whether it's your candidate. I think you just need to get out and express that. I'm not going to get on my soapbox anymore in this show, but I think you need to get out and vote. So please do on the 22nd of October. So we're going to be right back with Sharon Blady, Minister of Healthy Living and Seniors, right after we take this break. Welcome back to the Thanksgiving Day edition of Food and Friends. Food and Friends normally airs every Saturday morning from 8 to 9, and we'll hope you'll join us then too. I want to remind you that you only have 18 more days to help Winnipeg harvest by downloading the free Peak Recipes app. With just a few clicks, you can help those less fortunate than ourselves. For every person who downloads the free Peak Recipes app by October 31st, Peak of the Market Growers will donate 20 pounds of fresh vegetables, up to 1 million pounds, to Winnipeg Harvest. To date, we've had just over 2,000 downloads, which is about 40,000 pounds so far, but we want to get a lot more people downloading by the end of the month. Peak of the Market's mobile recipe app works on your smartphone, including the new iPhone 6, and on your iPad. It's available free through the Apple or Android or BlackBerry World app stores or via peakmarket.com. If you haven't downloaded it yet, all you have to do is go to any of these sites and do a search for Peak Recipes. And here's a few of the features of our new recipe app. Over 4,000 recipes. No internet connection required. So once you've downloaded them, they're all on your phone. You don't have to, go on the internet anymore. They're all there, take up very little bit of space. A recipe search uses a combination of keywords like potatoes, beef, chicken, or whatever you want to put, or ingredients and meal types. Measurements are both in metric and imperial. You can rate recipes after you try them, and you can add new ones to your favorite list. So you just go into your favorite list for those recipes you really like and find them real quick. Add recipes to your shopping list and then check them off as you shop. Add notes to the recipes like Larry's favorite. or add extra items that you might need while you're going out shopping. And this one I particularly like, font resizing of the directions. So if you want to make it bigger on your phone, you can do that as well, or on your iPad. And the other one I really like, no in-app advertising. There's absolutely no ads in this app. It's just recipes, nothing else. So it's over 4,000 recipes at your fingertips. And we're very excited, if you can't tell, by our new mobile app. And we want you to download it and give it a try. If you don't like it, you can delete it, but you still help out Winnipeg Harvest. We'll be right back with Sharon Blady, Minister of Healthy Living and Seniors, after we take this break for your 680 CJOB news, sports, and weather. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Thanksgiving Day edition of Food and Friends. Food and Friends normally airs every Saturday morning from 8 to 9. Hope you'll join us then too. I want to tell you about the Farm to School Manitoba fundraiser for all of you that are involved in school or daycare fundraising. This fundraiser is open to all Manitoba schools, K-12, and all licensed daycares anywhere in Manitoba. Basically, the fundraiser works like this. The student sells bundles of Manitoba-grown vegetables to raise money for their school or daycare. It could be to raise money for a school trip, sports equipment, sports tournament, whatever you want. Bundle A has carrots, cooking onions, and red potatoes and sells for $10. Bundle B has larger packs of carrots, red potatoes and cooking onions, as well as cabbage and parsnips, and sells for $20. And each bundle comes with a great reusable bag that is great for grocery shopping in the future. The great thing about this fundraiser is that the school or daycare keeps half the selling price, a 50% profit, and that's great for any fundraiser. Last year, this fundraiser raised $414,000 for Manitoba schools and daycares. That means the schools kept $414,000. The fundraiser runs until December 12th, and again is open to any school or daycare anywhere in our province. If you're interested in getting more information on the Farm to School fundraiser or to register your school or daycare, please visit their website at farmtoschoolmanitoba.ca. That's farmtoschoolmanitoba.ca, or we have a link at our website at peakmarket.com. We're back with Sharon Blady, Minister of Healthy Living and Seniors. Now, you're very familiar with the Farm to School program.
Oh, yes, and I love it. I think it's really cool. It's I'm going to be participating again this year through one of the daycares in my community.
Oh, great.
And, I mean, I think it was wonderful when we launched it, being at Glenlawn there, and then being able to not only launch that, but proclaim Local Veggie Day.
We love the Local Veggie Day.
I personally think every day of the year should be Local Veggie Day, but, again, I have a bias. But I love Farm to School because I've watched some of the schools and the daycares in my neighborhood really transform how they do fundraising. There was one year, actually I think it was the year when we launched it in my neighborhood, and the school there embraced it and took on a few other healthy foods. And so what ended up happening is you were able to get your entire Thanksgiving dinner. I got pierogies, but it all started because of the vegetables. It got the kids talking about vegetables. And then when we did the launch there at Glenlawn, what I loved was how they all had recipes that included, like we ended up being, I think, using everything that would have been included in that $20
bundles,
bundle
yep.
was there. And, I'm sure a lot of folks might sit there and go, well, how do I use all of these things? Or cabbage or parsnips, what am I going to do? That's through the app. I have to say, I feel bad that I haven't downloaded the app because that seems like it will solve a whole bunch of problems on the home front in terms of being able to work with my kids. So Farm to School is, it's amazing. I mean, it makes everybody happy as a mom. I would much rather be buying, veggies than chocolates to fundraise for my kids. I'd much rather be feeding them veggies than chocolates or other kinds of things that are used for fundraising. And the fact that it does so much good, and I have to say I really appreciate the partnership with the Peak of the Market producers, because I know that this isn't something that they enter into lightly, that it's something that you...
Well, for our listeners, the pilot program started back in 2010, and we did 68 schools that year. We only wanted to do 25. We had such interest, we did the 68. But this is a unique partnership because it's the Healthy Living, the Ministry of Healthy Living and Seniors came in, and the Manitoba Home Economists came in. Yeah. The Buy Manitoba program, which is run by the Manitoba Food Processors, but it's funded by the Manitoba Agriculture, Food and Rural Development. Yes. I have to get the new title down. I'm still not quite on that. It's a mouthful. So it's all these people coming together, as well as the schools and the students and the parents. But you brought up a good point in what you were just saying. It's not just, and I said in my opening there, if you're looking at being involved in fundraising, that's true if you're at a daycare or a school that needs fundraising. But they also want to sell those bundles to people. Yeah. You don't have to be going to a school or have a kid in school. You can just buy a bundle and that helps out at school.
Exactly. Well, and the idea too that people can also buy a bundle and have it donated to the Manitoba Association of Food Banks as well. So in other words, buy one for yourself, buy one to donate.
And that's an option. And I'm sorry, Administrator, I didn't give you all these stats that I gathered Friday before I left the office. But the Manitoba Association of Food Bank, we started that as a kind of a where people could buy an extra bundle, as you say, and give it to the food bank. And the first year was 2012. We tried that, and 7,000 pounds went to the food bank. So people bought an extra bundle, or maybe they didn't want to do that instead of buying it themselves. Whatever.
Yeah.
7,000 pounds. So last year, 30,000 pounds went to the Manitoba Association of Food Banks, which we're helping out people less fortunate, and you're helping out your school or daycare at the same time. So this year, so far, I mean, we're only a little ways into the program, already 25,000 pounds has gone to the Manitoba Association of Food Banks so far.
Well, you see, and that's the other thing, and this is where, again, I'm very proud to be a Manitoban because we're very generous people. And what I love about this is it's also the donation of something that, again, contributes to the collective well-being. One of the food security is an issue for some folks. By putting good, healthy Manitoba vegetables on their plate, they might be at a tough time in their life, but if they can get access to healthy food that way through that tough time, it means when they come out at the end of it and are on to better times as we're helping them through other different programs, different things, they're going to be healthier, and that's going to contribute to their long-term health. We know that especially with kids, if there's dietary issues or nutrition issues early in life, it can have long-term consequences. So how I look at it is we look after each other, as our means allow us to, and we take supports, as our needs require us to. And I think this is a wonderful example of how Manitobans can look after each other. And again, I love it because what I find is when the kids get excited about, oh, I've got this fundraiser thing, well, this makes them start thinking about vegetables. And okay, there's cabbage in that bag. Well, what do I do with cabbage? And that the recipe apps and the other things there. We had an interesting discussion around vegetables in my own home last night that makes me realize just how important engagement is, because we had made a stew. And I have to, again, say that it didn't come off your app. We had Googled it. And, well, let's just say it was open to debate, and there was no afterwards where we discussed the list of things in there. Yes, the sweet potatoes were a good addition. Yes, we obviously had to, we went through the carrots and the this and that. And it was interesting because we refined the recipe as we ate it. These are the things that we like about it. What spices did we put in again? And this and that. So having that app, if that was one of those recipes, we could have literally tweaked it at the dinner table. But it was neat. The entire discussion around dinner was pretty much around vegetables. And I have to thank you for your contribution to the dinner, because what that stew was obviously some meat from the local butcher. It was vegetables, some pico of the market vegetables, coupled with some of the things that we'd grown in our own garden.
Okay, yeah.
And so we'd added some peppers, and it was a case of, okay, well, which peppers worked? Oh, which herbs worked? So we had you guys supplied all the potatoes, the parsnips.
Thanks, by the way.
So so how I looked at it was, when I talked about this before, my garden tends to complement. I don't compete with Peak of the Market, and you guys, I can't grow those things. So I grow the complementary things, but it allowed my kids and I to sort of go through our checklist of, okay, well, if we're going to put these veggies in, then we would flavor it this way, but next time let's try it that way. So I love this because I know that my kids getting involved in Farm to School got them talking about vegetables.
And we think quite the opposite. People that have gardens like yourself do it because you love it, but you know how much work's involved. So when you go to the grocery store during the wintertime, you realize those growers work pretty hard to get that product looking like that on those shelves. So we absolutely love that.
Exactly. It's taught us a great appreciation of vegetables when they don't take it for granted. And I also know there are some that are, in my mind, easier to grow on a small scale in my home, and others that are better suited to you guys. So I'll leave the carrots and the potatoes to you.
We'll be right back with Sharon Blady, Minister of Healthy Living and Seniors, after we take this break. Welcome back to the Thanksgiving Day edition of Food and Friends. Food and Friends normally airs Saturday mornings from 8 to 9. We hope you join us. It's hard to believe, but it's the middle of October, and that means there's lots of Manitoba vegetables available in your store right now. Here's a quick crop update of what you can expect at your local store. Beets, kale, leeks, parsnips, carrots, green red and Savoy cabbage, red onions and cooking onions, shallots, pumpkins, green acorn squash, as well as some other winter squashes, red, white, and yellow pearl onions, red, russet, and yellow potatoes, and something brand new this year, peaking the markets, red yellows, all one word. The red yellows is our brand name, and these are potatoes with a red skin and yellow flesh. And you can look for the peak of the market Sesame Street red yellows potato bags with Big Bird on the front and Elmo on the back. And I said this last week, but get it? It's Big Bird's yellow and Elmo's red, so that's why they're on the bag. But anyway, the perfect Sesame Street characters for our new red yellow potatoes. Please look for all the Sesame Street potatoes bags in your stores. I think they look great. You can also, we also have Peak of the Market organic red, russet, and yellow potatoes, as well as cooking onions are also available right now. And as always, if it says Peak of the Market on the label, you're guaranteed it is grown right here in Manitoba. We're back with Sharon Blady, Minister of Healthy Living and Seniors. So we've been talking about farm to school, and we're talking about some other healthy programs. But let's talk a little bit about your ministry and what areas, what other programs do you have?
Well, it's an interesting cross section. So it is everything in terms of the healthy living stuff that goes from the in motion, and again about getting people active and moving. There's Wellness Works, which is a project that we've started with the Manitoba Chambers of Commerce, and it's about creating healthy workplaces. And so that's one that I'm really excited about, because that one is really interesting. You go onto the website for Wellness Works, and companies work with their employees, and they take a pledge to some core principles about creating a healthy workplace, but then they get to customize it. And so some of the things are like additional activities. So are they going to find time to, maybe folks are going to go for a walk together or do walking meetings? Is it going to be about healthy food choices? So that's another place where, okay, are we going to keep the vending machine in, or are we going to bring in fruits and vegetables and have them in bowls in the office? Different kinds of things like that. So it's been, that's been one that I've been really loving, because we've got a place now where we're at a place in the 21st century where workplaces realize if they're healthier, they're more productive and their employees are happier. And so it's been, like I said, a lot of fun working with them. There's everything like the students working against tobacco, the SWAT teams, where again it's working with young people. And then it goes all the way to the other end of the spectrum, where I've got the Manitoba Council on Aging, and the volunteers that work with that in that group that help us put together an aging strategy with the Seniors and Healthy Aging Secretariat. So it's a wonderful full spectrum from 8 to 80 and beyond in either direction of working with people, and again working with some of the finest Manitobans I've ever met to put our heads together and see how we can all be healthier.
And I don't know what your department's budget is. I'm not going to ask that. But a lot of the programs you talked about is probably some money to get them started and coordinate them, and whether it's business or individuals are kind of running with it.
Yeah. Well, actually, I would have to say that Kevin Chief's department and mine are probably the two that can get the most out of a shoestring budget. We have two of the smaller budgets, but it's, again, oftentimes it's working with folks at a grassroots level and some kind of small investment. I'm always amazed by what somebody will come to us, and what they're asking for would qualify as pocket change in a larger department, and what they can do with it, and the number of lives that'll be impacted, and the number of things whether it's cooking classes, whether it's getting kids out and doing things. Another one that's really I find exciting is age friendly, and it's how do we make the province more age friendly. And some of the greatest activities that have come out of age friendly have been intergenerational ones. And one out in the I'm trying to remember now which area it was. I was talking to Eileen Clark about this, and she was saying that there was a school that basically it was a case of they started a cooking class, and the cooking class now has seniors in the community teaching the kids how to garden, so that they can learn, again, gain an appreciation, have some of their vegetables supplied by it, but just so that they could do literally the full process, understand things, again, have a greater appreciation for what producers are doing by getting their hands a little dirty, having a little bit of ownership of it, and then being able to put it on the table in front of their parents. And again, might not be able to do it all year round, but it was a wonderful, wonderful intergenerational project that got elders sharing their knowledge and young people getting engaged.
And if you look at the farm to school program that we talked about in the last segment, you made an investment grant or whatever you call it to the Manitoba Association of Home Economists. Without them being involved in promoting all this and your department and the Buy Manitoba and Peak of the Market coming together, it probably would never happened.
Exactly.
And it's an interesting thing because, and I quite often say this on the farm to school program, we talk about, we want the kids to be in gym, more students be in gym more often. We want people to eat properly, and then we go ask them to sell chocolates. Just the vegetable fundraiser just kind of makes more sense from that point of view.
Oh, it does. And again, it's one of those things where it's about having choices easily available. And I think that's the other thing, is part of what I view my job description as, is how do I help people make choices in a way, or give them enough education, put out enough different things, invest in different things so that the best choice is actually the easiest choice. And so, like you say, it would be weird to sit there and send a certain amount of messages and then, like you say, on the fundraising one, have a different one. Whereas
I eat chocolate, but I'm saying.
Oh, I love chocolate too. And again, like any good thing in moderation. I'm not the minister of sucking fun out of your life. Healthy living can be fun living, but it's about how you do things. So I know with my kids, it's the youngest one, he loves to chop vegetables, so we sit there and we prep carrots together so that he's got them for lunches.
Perfect.
Yeah.
We'll be right back with Sharon Blady, Minister of Healthy Living and Seniors, right after this break. Welcome back to the Thanksgiving Day edition of Food and Friends. Please join me next Saturday from 8 to 9 in the morning when my guest will be Danny Kramer from the Danny Kramer Event Band. Hope you have an opportunity to hear Danny and his band. They are fantastic. They actually performed at Shelley and my wedding. My guest today has been the Honourable Sharon Blady, Minister of Healthy Living and Seniors. Thank you so much, Minister, for being on Food and Friends.
Well, thank you for having me. I think it's wonderful that we were able to do this for Thanksgiving.
Yes, and we have so much to talk about when it comes to healthy.
Yes.
We have a lot to, and thank you so much for your support of the Farm to School program and everything else you do for our province.
Well, and thank you, because like you said, if it wasn't for this kind of partnership, might not have happened. So I really appreciate that. That's how we get things done around here.
Enjoy your Thanksgiving dinner.
You too.
Take care, and please don't forget to eat your veggies.